The biggest wrestling week of the year is now past us. We've gotten so much great events from the beginning of April, but for this video, I'll be talking about the most stupendous two-night event of the year, WrestleMania 38. While I had stuff to anticipate, I wasn't going into this Mania expecting one of the greats. But in all honesty, this is an easy contender in the top 10 Manias of all time. Almost everything from both nights delivered, and while there were some unfortunate circumstances throughout, especially the fact that the IC and US champion were nowhere to be seen, this really reminded us why WrestleMania is such a special event, and especially when it's done right. From both nights of the 38th granddaddy of them all, there were a total of 16 matches, which is the exact amount from the entirety of WrestleMania 35. It's a good decision they started making this a two-night event. But back into the topic, I decided to rank every match from this blockbuster card from its worst to its Mania Classic levels. Again, matches, not moments. So this list won't include highlights like Triple H leaving his boots in the ring. And of course, this is obviously just my opinion, and please feel free to leave your rankings for the card and duke it out in the comments below. Here we go. Number 16, The New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland. This is both sad and anger-inducing. There are many reports from both nights of the show on how this match was very close to being cut, and even still, the match was not even 2 minutes long. In some ways, I understand it to get this new stable over, but with Kofi and Xavier wearing tribute gear to Big E and WWE showing Big E getting his neck broken multiple times, it just seems like another case of poor taste to get quote-unquote heat. Plus, having Pete Dunne, Butch's first appearance at WrestleMania be him acting like a kid in the park, proving he's tough by just flailing around, is dream-shattering, especially when we've had so many glimpses on what the Bruiserweight could have done to the main roster. This match was stacked with talent, but almost nothing but bad came out of it. Number 15, Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee. It's an official match to the card now, so I'm gonna count it. I remember when people were afraid this was gonna be added to the card and the boss found a way to sneak it in at the last second. Weirdly though, the crowd popped for it, and from what I've seen, many people love the sheer insanity of it, and while it's definitely memorable, I felt like this being a match was pretty dumb. I'm not trying to be one of those wrestling fans that can't have fun, but seeing even Pat McAfee selling and being pinned by Vince is just a bit too much. While that was the point to then get Austin out, which to their credit, the awful stunner on McMahon and the extra beer party was a lot of fun, but I felt like this could have just been a post-match angle rather than seeing a 76-year-old Vince McMahon in the ring. I get why it's entertainingly funny to many, but just more so nothing for me. Number 14, The Usos versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. There's not much else I can say that hasn't been said. This was a very unfortunate way to open the first night. If you don't know, Rick Boogs suffered a torn quadricep to patella tendon that has acquired surgery during the match. This happened when he attempted to carry both the Usos on his shoulders when his legs gave out. It's not only sad to see a wrestler get injured at WrestleMania of all events, but also what we saw of the match before the injury was pretty good. The crowd was ready, they had some entertaining back and forth spots to start it off. Shinsuke Nakamura did really good, the Usos did really good, and while the Usos getting the win with the 3D was pretty cool, the concern for Boogs was never not going to be the main concern afterward. Get well soon, Rick Boogs. Number 13, Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. I was not expecting to have this match be this low on the list going in. The match Charlotte and Ronda had at Survivor Series 2018 was great, and while the build-up to this wasn't the best, the most dependent I was for these two was in the ring. It's not like it was a bad match, because it wasn't, but especially through the beginning and middle half, I just couldn't get the thought out that this could be better executed. Charlotte had good heel energy and Ronda looked good in her dominant spots, but the chemistry here was a bit more hobbled and the heat started to sink away pretty fast. It got better towards the end with the back and forth counters to their submissions easily being the spot of the match, but Charlotte getting the pin sorta clean with the big boot just didn't sit right. Yeah, she did pull cheap tactics, but it seemed confusing for both the match and Ronda's future with the company. Number 12, Bobby Lashley versus Omos. This did just feel like a way to get Lashley on the card, which is fair, and in all honesty, the undefeated streak of Omos didn't seem like it was going to reach extra high stakes, so having it here was done and executed the way it should have been. Omos clearly still needs some more work, but he bumped for Lashley pretty well here, and the Almighty was sure to make Omos look dominant in some sequences. Nowhere near the most memorable match, but it did what it needed to do, and Lashley getting the win was a nice moment. Number 11, Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. This was another add to the seamless never-ending Corbin feuds, but where credit's due, they really put the work in for this match. Drew sold everything very well and got everyone energized for his comebacks. Corbin is a great heel magnet, and he showed off again how brutal his moveset can be. But the main highlight of this match was obviously McIntyre kicking out of the End of Days. From what I can remember, it's a move that's rarely or if ever been kicked out of, and it certainly was a moment worthy for WrestleMania. Drew's post-match celebration cutting the ropes was also a very cool moment. Number 10, The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios. This was a clear celebrity match, but it was surprisingly very well worked. Ray was of course great, he's Ray. Dominic also got impressive spots as well, showing the improvement he's had around the ropes, plus the entrance of them both flying out of the stage and Dom's tribute gear to Eddie were wonderful little moments. The Miz is a true textbook heel and had great timing with the spots, and Logan Paul actually did impress me here. The Three Amigos spot got a great heel pop, and he did an impressive frog splash. Miz sneaking in the win was also a clever finish, and with Miz turning on Logan means he'll probably be doing more work with the WWE, and if so, he probably wouldn't be bad at it. Number 9, QueenZelena and Carmella versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler and Natalya. In all honesty, with how poorly booked most of these women have been lately, it was great to see them have some fun and show off their craft for this match. The entrances and gear for all of them were definitely WrestleMania worthy, and they made sure to bring out many great sequences showcasing the talents from all 8 competitors. The double Tower of Doom spot especially was very well done. The mini singles match Sasha and Liv had in the middle was also great, and speaking of Sasha, it was great to see her finally get a win at WrestleMania for the first time. It was beyond earned for her, and also a great add to Naomi getting 2 different title victories at WrestleMania. Number 8, Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. I really didn't expect Pat McAfee to be the most over person at WrestleMania, but he sure was. His entrance to Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes was very entertaining, and I was excited to see what he was gonna do, especially since his match with Adam Cole last year was already one of my favorite celebrity matches. Austin Theory getting the praise pre-match from Vince as a future Universal Champion is also a pretty big praise, and he showed that he's got the charisma for it. His selling was also great, and especially for his age, has great ring knowledge with his timing. A lot of the great sequences from McAfee were similar to the ones in his match with Cole, but this has the advantage of being in front of such a big crowd that were the loudest they'd been the entire night. While not the Mac classic of Mania, this is a candidate for most fun match of the show. Number 7, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. The biggest WrestleMania match of all time, they said. We may not believe it, but we're wrong. Look at the title. The build-up for this had been handled well, and while we've seen the match between them many times, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are really good, and this match was definitely the second best of their 3 Mania main events. Heyman giving the introduction to Reigns to Brock introducing himself was the near perfect intro they could have done for this storyline, and they made the match feel heated and performed like they were quickly trying to get the win. It did slow down a bit in the middle, and the ending was a bit abrupt, potentially because of an injury to Reigns, but the Tribal Chief getting both titles was in the end the right decision and could have potentially been the last match from Brock Lesnar, which I never really took into account while watching. A pretty good main event, but could have had a bit more. At least in my opinion, it wasn't even as good as number 6, Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. I may not have been able to have as much fun with Vince versus Pat as others, but I had a blast with Knoxville versus Zayn. Not making it for the IC title was definitely the right call because we just got to have fun with it, which is the best we could have gotten from this match. The buildup was also very fun with Knoxville and Zayn clearly having fun with the phone number prank. And while Knoxville isn't a wrestler, we know he has no problem taking a nasty bump and even got some surprises in there like the tornado DDT and all the bits from the Jackass crew were awesome, like Dark Shark, Party Boy, Chris Pontius, and Wee Man doing a better body slam than Hulk Hogan. Many times with pro wrestling, it's great to remind yourself of its silliness, and this match did just that. And I need to give major props to Sami Zayn for selling everything like the brilliant selling master that he is. And I could tell how much fun he had with this, and it was just a very refreshing watch, oddly enough. Number 5, RK Bro versus the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. One of the best Mania openers in the last 10 years, and the electricity of this match was there from beginning to end. Montez Ford continues to impress with how high he can go. That blockbuster was insane. Dawkins further showed his growth. Otis was great with his timing. Gable was the MVP for his positioning. And RK Bro are just one of my favorite tag teams right now. Riddle sold everything great and got that amazing springboard RKO. And Randy is really underrated with his hot tag because it really gets the crowd energized. I was glad to see them retain, even though I didn't predict it, and the post-match stuff with Gable and, well, Gable was really fun. Great tag team wrestling all around here. Number 4, Edge versus AJ Styles. Before this was announced, this was easily in my top 10 dream matches of all time. And while it wasn't fully the depths I was hoping, this was still a great back and forth wrestling match. It is a bummer that the immediate attention went to Styles getting busted open from the stage immediately, but they quickly got the attention back into the match. Edge did fantastic working with the new heel persona and really matching the back and forth quickness with Styles. His counters were also some of the smoothest he's ever done, including one of my favorite Edge-o-matics in recent memory. Styles did great here too, giving one of his best Mania performances, getting back in the groove with his strikes and the quicker agile counters. And it was something we've missed from a lot of his recent pay-per-view matches. His submissions were also some of his best grappling combos in recent memory, and Edge did a good countering to it with the label lock. The crowd being more dead for it did take away some heat, especially with it being the longest match of the entire event, and the Damian Priest interference, while interesting, did take more heat away. We did get that phenomenal forearm counter to a spear though, and it looked great. Number 3, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. I really wasn't sure going in if we were going to get a match out of the KO show segment, but we did, and it was way beyond of what I was expecting it to be. Making it a no-holds-barred match was obviously the right call, and the visual of Austin and Owens fighting around the stadium in a true Stone Cold brawl was an amazing sight. And Austin bumped really good here. The suplex to the floor, the ring post spot, and stunner by Owens were all sold well by him, and I'm so glad he was clear and set to do it and be completely fine afterwards, especially with his previous neck issues. Kevin Owens was a class act here, bumping for Austin like an ass whooping in the Attitude Era, giving the great heel charisma he's always had, and making sure to put as much as he could in a match that I could only imagine he never thought he would get, in the main event of WrestleMania of all places. Austin telling the story of his first match being in Dallas and giving a final match to Dallas was a really great touch to giving this match more meaning than it already did. And instead of losing like he did to The Rock, he beat Owens with the stunner, celebrated with a lot of beers, and it was definitely my favorite main event of the 2 nights. An incredible visual. Number 2, Cody Rhodes versus Seth freaking Rollins. Phew. Ever since Cody Rhodes left AEW, it was the biggest question to wrestling fans that if he was going back to WWE. While it was shocking that he left the company he did help build, it is aware that he had unfinished business when he left WWE. He requested his release to prove himself, and when the lights went out, Kingdom started playing, and the American Nightmare rose from the stage, pyro and all. It was a pure, shocking WrestleMania moment for the ages. Cody as the American Nightmare at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins is something I'd thought impossible only a few months ago, and the match itself was fantastic. Rollins had a lot of fire going into this, and he brought out great heel heat, and he brought out the brutality to his moveset. The twist in his superplex and Falcon Arrow spot looked great. Him hitting a pedigree on Cody was a great visual, and the powerbomb to the outside was one of the highlights of the whole show ring-wise. Cody soaked all of this match he could in, and brought out one of the best singles performances in his entire career. The Stardust callback was great, and he really showcased all the improvements he had made in the ring since he left in 2016. The suplex to the outside had great execution, his awareness around every spot was very noticeable, and combining the moonsaults and suicide dives to great counter grappling really shows Cody's evolution. The ending was a great story. Hits the crossroads twice, bionic elbow for Dusty, then one more crossroads for the win. The most shocking wrestling visual of the year so far, with a great back and forth match along with it. And it was so close to being match of the show, leading to number 1, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. This match next to Roman and Brock had the longest amount of storytelling going in, and the performances all around from entrance to finish was textbook execution to cap off a feud at the greatest stage of them all. And not only that, but to deliver what might be the best women's match in WrestleMania history. Becky's heel intro and entrance were great, along with Bianca's marching band entrance, got the blockbuster feel right away. And the ring work from these two was brilliant, with the story immediately getting reminded in the beginning of Becky getting another manhandle slam quickly and Bianca kicking out. A simple but easy reminder to know that the fight is on. Becky gave her best in-ring performance in years. Her dominant technical work was stellar, and she nailed the heelish tactics. Plus, she really made sure to perform the fact that she was desperate to beat Bianca, and it led to even more intriguing stuff to add to their story. Bianca was amazing here, showcasing both her impressive moves and athleticism, and bringing it into a different style than her match with Sasha. Especially with the fact that she got hit right in the eye from the senton / kick, it shows that she is one of the toughest pros in the game. Both of them combine the skill of showing off what makes yourself look great and what makes your opponent look great, which made the intense back and forth near falls even more enticing. And Bianca nailed the quick KOD, and it was a truly earned second Mania title win in a row for Bianca Belair. One of the best women's matches in recent years, and just with her second match, really solidifies Bianca Belair as one of the greatest WrestleMania performers of all time. So that was my ranking of the entire WrestleMania 38 cards. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and duke out your opinions below in the comments.